Hello, hello. Welcome to the last episode of season 1 of 70s Daydreams. I'm Autumn.
And I'm Alder.
And today we're going to talk about Robin Hood, the 1973 Disney film that portrays this classic legend. And I like how we've been doing a lot of sort of like deep cuts and sort of like interesting experimental shorts and such. But I thought it would be good to, well, actually, Alder thought it would be good to do something that's a bit more well known. So
we are entering the mainstream officially.
All right. So what stood out to you in this film?
Yeah, so just background, I hadn't watched this since I was a child, and I had only watched it maybe once or twice when I was a child, so I didn't remember a whole lot of it. And coming back to it, the things that I really remembered in childhood were like the rooster and then Lady Cluck, and so like those specific characters really stood out to me.
Yeah, I didn't really remember anything because I hadn't seen it since I was a child either. I just knew that like the fox, he looks very like dapper and cool.
Yeah.
And it reminded me a little bit of Ed, Edd and Eddy's Squiggle Vision because like a lot of the lines were kind of like they were like in motion a lot, like the outlines of the characters. And I don't know, it was just it was an interesting look. And also the way they talked was interesting. Like their mouths kind of moved slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't always perfectly match up with the voices. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was like a good looking film. I liked a lot of the color palette. Like, felt like there's a lot of purples and pinks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in particular that the song Love, that the one part where Robin Hood and Maid Marian kind of come together and have that like little time in the forest, and then the color palette becomes like more muted, and then it's more pink and purple than it was even throughout. When I looked it up, that song was like pretty popular, and won or was nominated at least for an award.
Oh, dang.
So
I really liked that scene. I thought that like the first shot with like the forest, like just like the thick of the forest with like the fireflies and everything at nighttime. It was really pretty. And then they had the shots of the lily pads.
yeah,
and
I
like
liked that a lot.
yeah, this like marshy swamp. It was really pretty. And then at the point of the film when everything starts to go downhill, when they all get like imprisoned and taxed into taxed into obscurity, the color palette changes into like a more muted sort of like blue hues.
Yeah, like blue gray almost.
Yeah. And I thought that was a nice shift in tone.
Yeah. Oh, and the fire animation too, like as the castle is burning like towards the very end.
Yeah, it was very like kind of like watery
It was.
for fire. Yeah, it was the movement. And another movement I really liked was the wine, like any of like the liquids. There was this one part where the prince or the king throws like a jug of wine at the wall, and it like the way it like trickles down onto, I think it was the tax man. He throws it at the tax man because he was angry at him.
Yeah.
And it just looked so like, I don't know, it was like a bunch of ants or something. It had a really wild look to it. Oh, and just real quick, I want to mention the one thing that sort of stood out as being like sort of out of character was the bell, the church bell that was being rung. It almost looked like it was like early 3D animation or something.
Oh.
When like
good catch.
When the friar was like ringing the bell, there was just this like quick shot of it going back and forth, and it had this like 3D quality to it that sort of like stood out.
Yeah, for me, I think something that really stood out with this was the sonic quality and like the word choices that they use. Like the movie starts with that rooster and the song, And that whistling, it was like, I can't even do it, but
it sounded like the whistling sounded like it was being done like through the teeth or something, because it wasn't like, it reminded, the singer reminded me a little bit of like Johnny Cash. It was this sort of like, I guess they were trying to do like the whole bard thing, since it's like a medieval tale, but through the lens of like that era. So like the Dylans, you know, like the folk movement and stuff. So it had that kind of like a modern troubadour feel.
Yep.
With like a lot of gruff, or like Chris Christopherson or stuff like that.
Yeah. And so like so many of the characters had just these little like auditory like things that they would do, like the Prince John, like, and he had that funny thing, and then. And in the way that he interacted, not Little John. So that's one thing about this, where there's one character called Little John and there's one character called Prince John. And like of all the names, like, I mean, I realize this is like based on like a 14th century century tale. And I didn't look back to see if like, you know, for sure they had the same names, but like, Lordy, like, why do they have to both be John? That's very confusing. But the way that Prince John and the snake interact, and just kind of some of the things that he says to him. Well, Little John at one point says, "Be gone, long one," to Sir Hiss. And then at the very end, "You eel in snake's clothing." And I really like that.
Oodalay. That was a word.
Yeah,
they kept saying oodalay.
Constantly, yeah.
I was like, what is oodalay? And I kind of want to bring that into my...
Oodalali.
Oodalali. Yeah, oodalali. Yeah. They kept saying oodalali. And then I noticed they also said yee-hoo instead of yee-haw.
They did, yeah.
Yeah. I could have sworn there was like a couple times when they said things that sounded like of the period though, but like mixed. I think it was when Little John, right? That's the bear.
Yes.
I think he says at one point, "Look what I'm gonna lay on them," or something. Look, I'm gonna lay. Look at this scene I'm gonna lay on him, or something, because they were impersonating. They like dress up and like pretend to be different people and stuff. Also, I thought, you know, a very funny gender thing that like when they have Robin Hood and Little John dress up as women to seduce, the king and his men. Yeah,
and Sir Hiss is even like, "Oh, be careful, they might be bandits." And Prince John is like, "Female bandits, rubbish. Like that couldn't possibly be a thing."
Yeah, so the little elements of queerness and that exist. For some reason, the Little John, his like voice and like way of speaking reminded me of John Goodman. He had this kind of like just like barrel chested kind of like almost like fatherly tone to him. He also reminded me of the bear in the Jungle Book.
Yeah, Baloo. I think that they might be the same voice actor for Baloo, because like the Jungle Book was conversely from this, where I've only seen it a few times. I watched the Jungle Book a lot when I was a kid, and so like immediately when he came on the screen, I was like, Baloo, you know. So I didn't look it up, unfortunately, but I think they were the same actor. Yeah, it is the same voice actor. It's Phil Harris. He did.
Shout out Phil.
Yeah, he did both of them. You have a wonderful voice.
Yeah, and then like another little thing I liked the little flags that were on the elephants' trunks. Like they would like sound like trumpets kind of sometimes when they were making an announcement or like an arrival of someone important, and they had these like flags that were hanging off of their trunks, and I thought it was kind of funny. So in terms of like the plot and everything, I think about like maybe halfway through when Robin Hood like finally gets Maid Marian, it almost seemed like, oh, is the film over? But I was like, no, obviously it can't be over. So I was kind of curious where they were going to go after that. And then they have Prince John enacts, you know, his despotic terror into taxing everyone into submission and locking everyone up. And then they had to fight their way out of that. So I thought that was an interesting part of this story, because I was sort of like, oh, where are they going to go now? Like now what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, but really it's kind of the same the same plot point that we've been dealing with since the beginning, which was just like, he taxes us a lot. It's really awful and how much he taxes us and he takes from poor people. And so it's like that thread that goes through. And so to me, it's almost like you get to that point and you're like, okay, it's over, it's an end. And they're like, just kidding, we're going to do this kind of same thing that we did for like 20, 30 more minutes. But I really did like how the castle burned down at the end. That had some staying power to it. And
I was kind of curious as how they were going to treat it because, I mean, obviously Robin Hood is a controversial figure to the rich. So, and I was kind of curious, like, I guess this could be considered a countercultural time, or at the very least the aftermath of a countercultural time. So I was wondering if they were going to have any critique of Robin Hood, but for the most part, no. Like,
he was totally beloved and had no really like character flaws throughout, or like moments where he was like, you know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or, you know, it was kind of like smooth sailing for him most of the time. Even he didn't get locked up with everybody else of the main characters that were in the jail.
Yeah. So what are some other thoughts you have?
Yeah, I mean, I know that this film is like really beloved by a lot of people. I can't say that I've like shared that when I, you know, as a child. Like I didn't feel particularly captivated by it as a child. And even now, it was something that it was kind of hard for me to get through. One of the things I noticed about it that was really interesting was if you play the video at 2x speed, it sounds more normal than it does if you play it at 1x speed. Because at certain points I was like, oh my God, like the tedium of watching this. And I'm like speeding it up a bit. And it was like, it seemed, because I don't know, cartoons nowadays or like animated things can often be very quick. Like it's like you can barely keep up with how fast they are. And this one was very drawn out speaking, and even just the animations, like it looked a lot more modern and normal speed when I put it at 2x speed. So that was an interesting like catch there. I think that like myself as a child and even myself now is just like anti-authoritarian to like to a point where like this felt like a watered down version of that was like kind of frustrating to me. Like
how so?
Well, like the whole plot kind of revolves around the fact that you know, Prince John is in power and it really should be good King Richard. And if good King Richard was here, then everything would be fine. And that's how that's how it ends anyways, is that King Richard comes back and everything is rightfully restored. And, you know, these people can understand in the village of Nottingham that, you know, Robin Hood is doing this good thing by stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but they still throughout the piece say, you know, long live King Richard, and stuff like that. Like they're still really beholden to this monarch. And I think that like even as a child, I was just like, like I don't know how I feel about that.
Ain't no way King Richard is like that much better.
Right. But and that also he was off in the Crusades, which like, okay, like I mean
yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with the original tale either.
Same, yeah. But the fact that this one was also like it was mostly a romance in a lot of ways. It was like these two characters that were friends as children and that like kind of had this like romance that never really popped off, and then they were separated and then they came back together, and he's like asking her to marry him right away. And then, which is something that, you know, is made fun of now in like Frozen and like different Disney things. And, you know, the ending scene is them marrying and putting, and the patience that I have for that is very low. So, yeah,
I hear you. Regarding the pacing, that probably explains like some of like the squiggles I was talking about, because it had this like, it did have like this flowy quality, but like not necessarily, I don't know if it was intentional, but it had this sort of like, I like a scratchiness, but not as. I guess what it was sort of like was like with these other films that we would watch, like The Point and stuff. It had this more kind of like lo-fi DIY, like lower budget type thing, and that those ones were like really scratchy with the animation, and which I love. And maybe this was just sort of like a big budget version of that, perhaps, because it seemed it's the same era, and it did have some of the similar like lininess and sort of the way they were moving, but not necessarily with the same amount of attitude. It is true, it was a little bit slower. A lot of media at that time was slower paced, but you're saying that it seemed exceptionally slower, like not just in terms of the dialogue, but just everything seemed like it was really slow.
The funny thing is I didn't notice it to the degree that I would say now until I sped it up to 2 times, because when I was watching it like at 2 times, I was like, this is just a normal show. Like it didn't even change it that much. And then once I had that contrast of 2 times back to 1 times, I was like, my God, this is very slow. But I don't think that I had noticed it off the bat. It was more just like feeling like I wanted the plot to advance quicker than it was, more so than the actual noticing of the animation being slower or the dialogue being slower.
I don't have much of an opinion on how much I like this film, to be honest. I didn't dislike it. But yeah, I feel a bit neutral, because I haven't seen it in such a long time, and this is like my first rewatching. It was, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know what the reviews were at the time, or if it, how it was received. There aren't that many Disney animated films from the 70s. I mean, I think there's Aristocats, this one.
I think Pete's Dragon, but that was like half.
Yeah. So it seems like I don't want to say like a dead period for Disney.
Well, I know this one did make quite a bit of money. Like it had a $5 million budget, and then in the box office it was $33 million.
Oh, wow.
So it was successful. I mean, as far as critical acclaim, I'm not sure. But
yeah, where that was at. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I think it wasn't like the most unique thing I'd seen, but it was like familiar enough for me to enjoy it. And I thought there was a lot of, I like some of like the gags and some of like the characters' little quirks, like the snake where he was always like sort of like lisping, and I think maybe Little John, he might be my favorite character just because he was like a really good foil, or what's the word?
Like sidekick?
Yeah, he was a good sidekick. And I also just loved, excuse me,
Maid Marian. Get out of here with that. Like I can't even with her. Like I feel like that's kind of the main reason that like I have issues with this movie. But like I would also say that I feel neutral about the movie overall. Like I don't feel like necessarily that like I hate it. Like I feel like it was hard for me to get through it. But like a lot of it has to do with Maid Marian, because of like she like there's just no dimension to her for me, and she's like one of the few female characters in the entire film, and so that bugs me. And then the fact that like the winner of the archery tournament, Maid Marian gives a kiss to, like like I just didn't like that. And then I didn't like that it was like so marriage focused, and like but I mean, she's pleasant. Like she's a pleasant character. Like I don't necessarily dislike her, but like I guess what she represents as far as like the movie as a whole, I was more just like about. But I mean, I don't want to yuck your yum. So like, how about you
well,
tell?
I mean, this is a problem with a lot of media throughout for centuries. It's just sort of centering marriage and things like that, and seeing women just as, just a wife and a mother. So yeah, it's an offender, but I think that, lots of media, unfortunately, in these tales fall into those harmful stereotypes. I was gonna say, this is a little random, but I remember like the granny rabbit. I thought the rabbits were like the cutest characters. They were just like
superior.
And I just liked the older, like the mom or grandmother rabbit. She had these like Janis Joplin looking glasses, and I was like, I like how it was like the 14th century or whatever, but she had these like cool these like cool specs, and she was looking pretty hip. And also I wanted more drunk snake. When they put put the snake into the ale, and then when he finally comes out, I was like waiting for to really lay it on thick, and I was like, he's not drunk enough. I mean, you can't have like someone like immersed in like a barrel of ale. I really wanted to see like hiccuping bubbles and just like the whole thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, just that they did really well with that, as far as when the snake's head was inside of the balloon and used the propeller as the
I
tail.
Really liked
so
that
like
part.
That would have been a really like interesting, segue into that, because those scenes are kind of right back to back.
Yeah, I think the snake was probably one of the top characters for me. I think he was really good because, I mean, obviously he's not very likable in the sense that he's trying to defeat Robin Hood, but he had some range, whereas like Prince John was just kind of like that was funny how they gave Prince John mommy issues, because like he's always like sucking his thumb and pulling his ear and like reverting back to this like childlike state. And I guess they're just like making fun of, I guess, leaders who they like to talk a tough game, but like deep down they're just like little crybabies.
Yeah, and I think even at the end when the castle's on fire, somebody's like, it's like, oh, mommy's castle, and he's like, oh no, like, it didn't matter really, and like as much until he realized that it was, because it's also alluded to that like the mother's gone and dead too, so like, but also the snake, Sir Hiss, which, gosh, I love that name. He doesn't like Prince John. Like there's that whole song sequence where he's like singing the song, and then Prince John walks in and catches him, bad mouthing him.
I don't like Prince John at all. I didn't even like how his character, like when he was on screen, I thought everyone else was so charming, like just like their character design, and I just thought Prince John just looked awful. Like he just looks so gaudy and awful, and all the other characters are so cute and cuddly and whimsical. And then, I mean, I'm like projecting a bit because of how awful his character was, but he didn't seem very, likable.
Yeah, going back to the rabbits real quick, I thought that the animation for their faces and eyes in particular was so spot on, like how they would like go cross-eyed like a lot, and, like as like just like a really cute thing that kind of kids do, because a lot of the rabbits are children.
Yes.
And especially the baby rabbit, like when the baby rabbit was like, wait for me, and like kind of like going cross-eyed and like running towards, like, just so adorable. Like,
yeah, the rabbits were incredible. There was this one really expressive scene that was probably like an emotional apex in the film, when they think that Robin Hood is dead, and then
oh yeah,
little John, like his mouth, like the way he was like frowning, and it was just so like, that was like the one time you really see little John just like let go of his sort of, he's always happy-go-lucky, but then he really gets sad, and just like the way they animated his sorrow, and his, like the way his like mouth just kind of like all of the joy left him, and it was so sad. And and the other rabbit, with who Robin Hood gave his hat to, he was very sad. But I mean, Little John took my heart with that short little.
Yeah, because he was like, he's gonna be all right, right? And Little John like just kind of has a tear coming down, like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that was I think yeah, Little John and the snake. I think like those two characters kind of helped.
I really liked the little kid turtle who did not get very much screen time, but like the nerdy little turtle, and also had that auditory like gem where would go into the shell and it would like echo in the voice would like echo inside the shell, and that was like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. Um, so yes, thank you all so much. I'm really just over the moon that I was able to make this podcast happen. I did not know we would make it this far, and we've completed one season.
Yep. And more to come.
More to come. Yeah, we're gonna have some themed seasons. We have a lot more to cover. There's a lot of amazing animation from the 70s that I really want to cover. Please join us for the next season.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being here, and thanks for listening to us.
The reason I started this podcast is because I was actually watching The Point, and then I just kind of like got down because I was witnessing this like beautiful work of art, but I didn't really have anyone to share it with. And so that's why the genesis of why I created this podcast, because I wanted to share the joy that I get from things with other people and to talk with someone about it. Yeah, this has been really special to us both, and thank you all so much for listening. Don't just listen to us. You go to the source, watch these things that we're talking about. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.